the waiting room open, and so when people join, I'll let them in. But we'll start just so that we can get the ball rolling. Hello, viewers, jurors who are going to be watching this after, and the final three who will watch this postseason. And how welcome to the jury roundtable. We are here with, at the moment, Jacob, Trevor, Lyndon, Wesley, and Al, and they will be discussing our final three, which at the moment, well, not at the moment, but our final three is Cam, Morgan, and Nick. I don't know
One will
what
be murdered tonight. Who will it be?
to. But yeah, basically as well, thank you again, Karen, for stepping up and being our jury roundtable moderator. Uh, just basic rules as well, as I mentioned in the jury chat, and I'll say it again. Karen is here as a guest. Karen is not prod, but tonight she is, so please treat her with respect. Um, I have given Karen permission to message me if she feels that anyone is stepping out of line or if anyone's talking over people. I will mute them and I will mute you. So if you're talking over Karen, I will mute you. This is just a warning now. That being said, as well, please be respectful and mindful of the fact that yes, this is a game, and you all saw it's been an intense game for everyone. But just remember the three people who are at the end; those they are humans. Please try to be a little bit respectful. No crossing personal lines. In regards to your words, if you can speak on game events and things that happen within the game, but please keep it to that. Other than that, I'm gonna hand it over to Karen.
Hi. I mean, I have questions and I've watched, it's been a season for sure. Does anyone have anything pressing on their mind? Anyone want to kick it off though?
I feel like
Or
I had a pretty good intro, specifically to introduce us to you. Remember being on that jury roundtable in Distortion 2, and none of us were really happy with either option.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, if Mikey and Sean's game were teleported here, we would not be even entertaining these other three.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
Obviously,
fine.
Is this a bitter jury that we're sitting amongst or just hard decision to make for other reasons?
The only person I'm mad at is here, so I'm fine.
sorry.
Yeah, okay.
It was sincerely like me being in a stressful situation, not knowing to deal with it.
I don't know if I would consider myself bitter, because I kind of accepted that it was gonna be near impossible for me to get to the end. So I knew I was gonna be here. I think it's just how I got here, I guess, is what I having a hard time with.
For me, I think the dominant, because like when like I'm bitter, I'm like actively angry, or like I have like some resentment or some grudge against somebody. Like I need to exact their revenge. So I'm not gonna give them my vote, or like I get the final laugh of it all. But like I feel more so disappointment with some of the members of the final three, rather than it being any visceral anger. There is someone who of the cast, I felt like going into jury, I felt very strongly I wasn't going to support if they made it to the end. Lo and behold, they're in the final three. But I feel like as the first juror, it's very tough for me to really. I feel like I lack a lot of information. I lack a lot of context, and hopefully tonight I can hopefully gain some.
Were they looking for it?
Billy,
There we go. I didn't know I could click it. Who do you feel like sharing who you initially, whether you've changed or whatever, you initially were like, I would be so mad, and now they're there?
Uh, familiar face to me and you both, Gary. I kind of want to vote for Cam at this moment, but some things have been brought to my attention since then that don't make it entirely impossible. It just makes it very, very unlikely. That's kind of where I'm at.
can I just say something? Uh, I'm pretty sure everyone here knows that I'm fairly newish to the org scene. I was also in the most recent season of Distortion. And for a group of people who says that they tried everything to stay, um, no one felt the need to tell me that Nick, Morgan, and Cam are friends, like close friends in real life. Like that just seemed to slip everyone's mind. Um, and I don't know how I was supposed to know that. I osmosis, I guess. Um, but I don't know. I feel like that's helpful information to know. Like you obviously learn more about people's backstories the more you play these games, right? Or like backstories within these games. Like I don't need to know what happened to you in second grade unless it's like a really important thing to you, in which case I'd love to listen. But that's a lie. I probably don't care. But
I get your point.
like I just there's a limit to how much I can learn
Yeah,
about
I get
people
that.
that
I
I've
feel like
never
this game
seen
in general
before.
was very like people were not willing to share info a lot,
But like that's not info about the game. That's
or
like
like dynamics and all that.
Did
Even like,
that, do you think that specifically factored in here? I mean, they are final three, but was
yeah,
this a layout because of their friendships, or were there other relationships in the game too?
I have no idea. I have no relationship with really anybody. I mean, I know Wesley, I know Esteban, Jacob I've seen. He's complimented me randomly because he saw me somewhere else and I was like, does anybody
Oh,
know who this person is? And they're like, yeah, that's Jacob. He's like totally harmless and is also the nicest person in the world. And I'm like, great. So like I'm like safe and they're like, don't even worry about Jacob. And that's Alex I have seen, but like I don't know people's games. Like I don't
but
know
like
and like I
you're saying no one brought that up to you that they were friends. Did that factor into them getting to the final three?
from
Is
what
what
I've
I'm asking.
gauged, yes, it did
Yeah.
to a degree. I'm kind of like been I was very kept out of the loop on a lot of things, even my own game. But like there was a lot of dynamics and all that that were
I mean they were
um
three people of my five-person alliance, so I'm
and like
assuming that had part of it.
and Morgan like also did feel like those two are very even to me like Morgan tried to keep me more in like kind of loop, but they said that Nick and Trevor are very very close as well.
And what did you say to that information?
I was like that was not even during the Zoom call. That was during like a round or two prior.
Hmm.
And like my brain was all mush when everyone's screaming at me for 6 minutes. I know I fucked up. I just genuinely could not process anything.
So
And
let's
like,
talk about like between Cam, Nick, and Morgan. Let's break it down one by one. Who do we want to start with?
I guess Cam will be the briefest, so let's do with that one.
All right, sure. Let's break down Cam's game. What'd Cam do right? What'd Cam do wrong? Who was Cam working with? How'd Cam get here?
I will say Cam, in terms of conversing, was on the better end of the people in the game from my perspective. I don't know if everyone else is, but in terms of actually doing stuff, not really, other than just giving off nervous energy and saying he's not involved in anything.
Cam, Morgan, Nick, Alex, and I made a five-person alliance like day two, day three. Um, so lots of decisions were made in that five-person alliance, and I couldn't tell you for some of it who spoke first. Um, I don't. I think Cam had some ideas. I think Morgan and Nick tended to be more vocal. Um, but I wouldn't say that Cam was just a limp fish. Uh, I don't, is limp fish like, who cares? Um, I, yeah.
Jacob?
One thing I will give credit to, because like I was one of the people that was aware of the fact that they were friends. I knew Nick and Morgan are very close outside of this game. I did not think Cam was a part of that. I think that I assumed Cam was approaching it from the same way I am. Like, hey, they know me. They might give me some lenience due to the fact that we have this pre-existing relationship. I'm not gonna go out of my way to play with them or vow loyalty solely due to that fact. And so, from what Wesley was kind of saying was that Cam was kind of the most sociable of the three. That seems to be kind of like a recurring thing I heard, especially from like the rodeo side of things, where like Morgan and Nick on occasion would ice people out or rub people the wrong way or alienate some people on a social standpoint. But whether or not Cam was genuine with a lot of the things he was hanging out, which to me I don't think he was always actively having conversations and giving off the idea that like, he wants to work with people. I'm not sure exactly if that's a sentiment shared amongst everyone on the jury. That's kind of why I think that's a part of the reason why he was there and why
Trevor,
he
you're
wasn't
probably a little
targeted.
more inner circle than what rest of us here. Do you have any thoughts on Cam specifically?
I probably talked more game with um Karen than Cam. Honestly, I Cam to me was just the embodiment of just trying to get jury votes at the end of having a personal relationship, but when it came time to talk game, there was nothing there. Coincidentally, the one day that Cam did not message me was the day he voted for me. Um, so I personally don't think Cam, in at least in my point of view, Cam didn't really do anything to get himself to the end. Um,
I specifically remember that.
I'm definitely willing to listen to see what he says.
But
Listen to
there's a
hear what he
reason
says,
you
but
voted me out and not Cam.
right. Yeah. I was more I don't know why Al, but you specifically, I was like, I want to work with Al, but like Al's definitely gonna turn on me. I
If
don't
I
know
wasn't
why.
me, I would have voted me out too.
Yeah. I
Like
was
of the
like,
two of us, I would have voted me out too. Like that's not there's like not a single ounce of like like of the options. I get it. So
yeah.
I
The
had just won
second
2 immunities. It's like fine.
when we got in the first room and you were like, oh, I picked final six, I was like, yeah, I did too. And then as soon as Wesley said, okay, my first nominee's Al, I'm like, oh, Al's done. That's all right, that's it. Pack it up. Pack it up.
I would like to say something about Cam though. Yeah, and hello everyone. To those who think that I am not here, I am here. I talk to people too. I just want to clear things out with Al and Wesley. I actually talk to people. I have been asking to talk to you guys, but you're not giving me a chance at all. I speak a little personal to you and all, and
I
there's only like
literally like message you saying, "Hey, can we
one
call
person.
at some point?" And you didn't left
The
me on
only
red
thing
for
Matt,
days.
Matt, we're not gonna interrupt.
Anyway, yeah, but that's the only thing is that you're just gonna talk to me when it is already voting time. That's it. But anyways, when it is to Cam, the first thing that I had encountered with Cam is day one, day two, there's only a few person who's talking to me, and that is Cam. And when people think that this game should be to those who are really active player, who really push through names and all, that's not how the game works in Survivor. It is more on a in a relationship or social game. And I just feel bad to those who thought that they are really deserving to win because they actively play the game. It should be on the right timing with the right people and with the right mixture of relationship. And that's how I see Cam here. Because like yes, I have a relationship with Morgan and I have a bad good relationship with Nick, but Cam has been there all the time, letting you feel that, you know, that you are worth of it. You are really like, part of the game. And that is a strategy that you don't have as we feel right now. Like, yes, there might be the people or Nick and Nick and Morgan might be the vocal of the band, but then they cannot do all of it without Cam, without the number of Cam, and without the assurance of Cam will get some people to vote with them too. So I feel like Cam uses his social just to prove to people, that he's working oppositely of how Morgan and Nick will play. That's how I really feel. And when people are already talking, just like me, I feel like I am calm because like if everyone is already talking, do you still need to talk or you will be the one to listen? Because like conversation and communication is a two-way. When everyone is talking, there should be somebody who will listen. And I would appreciate people who are listening more than who are talking. And that's how I see Cat's game on this, on this season.
Crispy, any thoughts?
Um,
Oh, Lyndon also typed. You speak, then we'll read Lyndon's bit.
okay. I'll try to be quick because my food's almost here. um, so out of the three, Cam is the only one that actually like was willing to speak with me, but but was never about the game. Like anytime I brought up the game, he always kind of shut down, not shut the conversation down, but like would immediately like kind of stop responding. And the only times he did respond to me about like any game ideas or yearnings that I wanted, he would just say, anything can happen. Anything can happen. Anything can happen. And it was just like, or like, hey, you never know. You never know. And it's just like, okay, like that's say you don't want to work with me without saying you don't want to work with me. So that's kind of my frustration with Cam, but I will say that he and I did like bond a little bit about like personal stuff. um is that enough to get me to want to vote for him? Maybe. But I don't know. It's just I don't really have much insight about their personal games just because like none of the three of them. Well, I'll say more when it comes to Morgan, but they didn't really factor me into plans, so I like didn't know like what moves they were making. I didn't know who they were close with. I didn't really know anything. But at least Cam said, I'll talk to you if you want to talk.
Fair. Edla did said she agrees with Esteban. Cav actually spoke to her daily, and the other two did not. I wanted to circle back also and ask Trevor specifically. So you made it pretty damn near the end as well. How, like, Nick, Morgan, Cam, like, was there a tight knit? Like, where did you think you were knitting it? Like, I guess everyone also, not just whoever made it the furthest, etc. But like, was everyone surprised to find out where the cards fell? Like, did everyone feel like they weren't on the bottom? Were there layers to these relationships?
Right. So, oh God, that's so bright. Sorry. My sorry, my lamp just distracted me. Um, you asked about the three. Oh, okay. So my understanding was Nick and I were the two, and Morgan was the third. Um, I never really trusted Morgan, to be honest with you. I had always felt like if this was like a normal season, if I didn't have such trust in Nick, I would have tried to get Morgan out, probably live night. But at a certain point, I was like, okay, I think I can probably be both of them based on how they're treating the jury, honestly. So I was like, if I ride this out and just keep pushing, like, oh, us three deserve it, it'll work out. Despite the fact that that's true. Um, but I think to me, because the way Nick talked to me was Cam was never in these end game plans. Cam was always, we're gonna cut Cam last or second to last. I wonder if Morgan was the one that pushed for Cam. I don't know if Esteban might have more on the Morgan Cam stuff, just because he voted with them to vote a very handsome, charming fifth placer out. But yeah, that's my thought.
Fifth place is the best place. Don't even.
It's true.
Anyone else have anything on that, or should we move
Wasn't
on?
I with my season, not you? Wasn't I fifth my season, not you?
Yeah, I didn't say anything about fifth. I'm fourth, gang.
Hey.
Me and Esteban know about fourth place, okay?
I said fifth because I got fifth.
Yes, that was out from their
Karen,
season.
yeah, sorry.
Okay. Shall we do Morgan or Nick next?
I actually wanted to add to what Trevor's saying, if it's okay.
Okay. I didn't know if
Yeah.
we wanted to keep going back and forth. Okay.
Yeah. I just ask. I'm like, yeah, my relationship to Cam started with, day two, and then when we get at, the opposite tribe, when we have the 4-4 vote. So London, me, Morgan, I made it, tied to the end, and they draw racks on me. But then after that, we actually sacrifices London just to have Trevor and Nick on a group chat. And with that, I already realized that Trevor and Nick is already like a duo, and Morgan and Cam are actually like a duo. But then Cam made it really so subtle that he made me feel that it always been Morgan, Trevor, and Nick as the trio. So like that's, I mean, because Trevor asked me a while ago about how I thought of that. So that's how I feel that way. And then back in Final Five, when I decided to vote Trevor, who have been closer to me than, I mean, I'm closer to Trevor at the end of the game than to anyone else. But then I thought that I could, appease Cam and Morgan to choose me than Nick on the final four. But then it didn't really happen. That's why like Cam really made it really chaotic on my mind that it is Trevor, Morgan, and Nick, because I didn't trust Nick like since day one. But then I always really work with them because Trevor said like, no, you're fine, because I knew Trevor is really close with Nick, so I trusted Nick a little bit with on that, on that end. Yes,
I was just gonna say, I think them picking Nick over you had less to do with the three of them being a trio. I'm not saying they're not a trio, but like less to do with them being a trio and more to do with the correct assumption that the jury would want to vote for you if you got to the end.
Yeah.
So, I'm not saying like they made the right decision voting you out, but like I don't know if it was as much because of their unwillingness to vote each other out, and it was more of they knew that they had a better chance against each other because Morgan and Nick know that they've pissed everyone off, most people off.
Yeah.
And you haven't. So
I think both can be true.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, I think
Nuance.
I don't think that I'm not gonna say that Esteban was for sure gonna win. But if Esteban was in the final three, I at least was 1000% giving him my vote. Um, and I also think that they didn't want to cut each other because they are so close outside of the game and inside of the game. So I think both sentiments are accurate.
Yeah, I will add as well, that once like the second Esteban won, Morgan and Nick were freaking out. Like I walked away from my computer to, I don't even know, probably spend time with my wife. And I came back and Nick is messaging frantically saying, okay, this is what's gonna happen. Trevor, I threw out your name. We're gonna try to get Esteban to get rid of immunity at 5. And then Morgan was crying to Esteban to do X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, I walk away from you two for 5 minutes. And now now poor Esteban. I'm calling Esteban. I'm like, Esteban, what's going on? And you tell me, and I'm like, yeah, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? So I was just like, I think that's why I was like so nonchalant at 5, and that's probably why Morgan was able to take over from there, because I was like, look, Esteban and Nick, like, we're chill. At that final 3, we're good to go. Um, but yeah, I will say they were very freaking out, Esteban, that you won, because they were like, Esteban's gonna win because we pissed everyone off. And I was like, yeah, all 3 of us pissed everyone off. Yeah. Take me. But it didn't work. So
Um, I don't know much details, but when Morgan was giving me the heads up with the shot to let me use my shot in the dark, they threw in a line about I kind of was like, "Am I screwing you over here? Did I screw you over here?" It's like, and they were like, "No, I have some inwards, basically lock myself into final three." So there was something like might have been more like there might have already been the plans for 5 and 4 at 6.
Oh, there 100% was. It would, but I don't know. But see, that's a good point, Wes, because I don't know. When I hear that, I think like, oh, it's the me, Morgan, Nick thing. Because I'd been saying in the chat, like we kind of had a boot order already set up, and it was gonna go Wes and then Cam and then Esteban, or just based on immunity. Um, but I don't know. It could have been a three with Cam and Nick as well. That's a good point.
I hear a lot of like melding of Morgan Nick pissed a lot of people off. Like, did one piss more people off than the other, or piss people off harder than the other? Like, they both collectively pissed everyone off for sure. But is it just that big of a melting pot? Where's the separation? Jacob.
Actually, Crispy, you can go first.
Oh,
Jacob is just such a gentleman. Um, I'm putting my French fries down for this. This is how into it I feel. So for me, uh Morgan treat like Morgan treated me like I think the worst out of the three, which isn't that hard to do with these three. Um, and I think I've said mostly like why in the jury chat, but like there were just like moments where Morgan was extremely pompous about their game. And you know, like I was at a point where I didn't know what else to do. Morgan was the only one who was willing to talk to me at that point in time. So I was campaigning to them, and they were basically just telling me that it was my fault that I'm in this position, that it was embarrassing to watch me support Chriso and Rachel when they're clearly snakes, that it was disappointing that I didn't trust Morgan enough to be the solo representative for the challenge because I had no reason to trust them. And then I was like, hey, like, use me for a number. Like, what's going to happen if y'all get to 9? You could use me, blah, blah, blah. And they straight up said to me, like, oh, don't worry. I can maneuver in the 9. It's fine. I can make things work. And I mean, clearly they did because they're at the final 3, which good for them. But attitude to me goes a long way. And I felt like they were looking at me like I was, frankly, like I was stupid. And despite despite like how I did in the game, like I'm genuinely not a stupid person. But I just didn't like how they made me feel like I was stupid. And that's the distinction between Morgan and Nick and Cam. Whereas Cam was like actually genuinely nice to me, and Nick just didn't speak to me at all. So like that's totally fine. So that's the distinction between those three. That's why I'm like having a hard time wanting to vote for Morgan, because like, yes, they got to the end, but like you got to remember, like, we're all people at the end of the day. Like, don't talk to me like I'm an idiot, because I'm not. Back to my French fries.
there. Jacob Dorno.
Well, I don't have any French fries to put down. I've kind of resigned to the fact I'm not going to eat during this. But no, it's weird because like I've hosted them in Hypnotic. I hosted their win, and I saw hints of that kind of like what Crispy was mentioning, that kind of like pompous attitude, this this comfort in their position and their skill, that they can kind of just think that they can kind of get away with it and it would pay off for them. I think Crispy's reaction is very similar to a juror that was on there, that spoke actively against how he talked to her during a live night and just like, oh no, I'll figure it out. I got this. I got this. I got a couple tricks up my sleeve and a couple members of the jury. Not enough, obviously, for him to lose. He ended up winning Hypnotic, but like it was something to where it was very hard to hear other people speak accounts on this, like obviously Crispy and other people as well. Because and the weirdest thing about it is because I didn't get any of this. Like, and I don't know if it's because I know Morgan outside of this or what it was, but I never, to be honest, Morgan is my favorite going into FTC from what I got. Like for me, Alex, who told me very frankly, this situation is pretty grave. I'm sorry we didn't end up on the same tribe. I wish things were different. I can't do much here to save you. And Wesley telling me he was voting me off, those small, tiny gestures where I can't see the writing's on the wall. I know my situation. I may have to win out. I did it, and I wasn't going to. But I did like Morgan's not transparency because he wasn't pompous about his game to me. It just seemed he was like more like empathetic. Like he was like, no, I get that. Because he would speak a lot about what went down during like the challenge stuff and whenever I responded, I was like, no, I get that. Like he wouldn't argue with me at all about it. So it was very interesting to see other people feel alienated and angered by Morgan in the jury. Because and maybe there's hindsight bias. It's kind of like that moment. Like I think everyone's experienced this in a game where immediately when they got sent home, they start putting all the pieces together, get their theories going on what's actually going down in the game, what the dynamics are. And as more jurors started trickling in, the slow realization that yeah, that hunch was kind of correct. I always felt Morgan was doing pretty good. So I thought Morgan was one of the top contenders, but of course now them in tandem with Nick are alienating a lot of people, seeming to not really talk to people on their way out. And when they do, it's like in this very demeaning kind of condescending way to where it's like, I'm not an idiot. Like I mean, we're good players. It's just situation. The cards didn't fall the way that we wanted them to. So.
Yeah, I can say something with Morgan if it's okay. So yeah, just gonna piggyback with what Lyndon is saying. It's like I feel like Morgan devoted himself to make relationship and make people feel okay if you are on his side. That's how I really feel like I really had a very good relationship. Morgan and I played another game, CTC game, where we had also like this kind of relationship that we love each other, but we don't want each other to be there and this thing. But yeah, I feel like Morgan, by the time I give them the credit of using me as a number, but at the same time, I don't have a choice but to let them use me as their number. And he never made me feel, really bad until at the end of the game when I knew what he was talking, at the back of me. Um, I really feel bad when some of you said like he's been talking like feel like I'm so stupid to be with him in the votes and all those stuffs. And when we were in final five, when we voted Trevor out, I had a chance to talk with all of them. And then when I talked to Morgan to um to validate what Nick was saying, that everything is already a plan, that dramatic cry is already a plan because I feel like it's already staged. And he said, like, yeah, it is, but you have to give me 5 star for that because I really did really well on, being dramatic there. And I don't know if it's kinda still on a part of the game or if it's like a little bit personal that I feel like he made me feel so stupid about that because I've been talking to him like in a nice way and he said like, you know what, whatever Nick was saying, he said like everything that is it's true. That's how I feel and you should not be here. Like those are the things that that was been uttered when we had a conversation. And for me, as a person who more on a social in a personal game, I don't really appreciate that. And if you really are playing a game to win, I mean, at least say that after probably everything that's done. And well, you missed you missed the part that yes, I'll be voted out, but you still need me to win. and physical or being active and sports, and I mean winning challenges is part of the game, but there's big chunk of it that it is more on the votes or on the social game. And all the people at the jury has their rights if they will vote with ill faith or with with bitterness, because well, people are looking at your game in general and not only of your winnings in the challenges. Maybe those are the things that missed. I mean, like Nick and Morgan missed a lot because they have, talked themselves like very high. Because like I've been into the strategic, I mean, plans all the time. I've been into all of this like all the time. That's how they were saying. But then at the end of this, it's not only a Big Brother strategic planning or like a challenge game where you need to win things. It's Survivor. So that's how I feel with Morgan at the latter time that we were together at the Final Four.
I did see your hand, Jacob, but
I would say for the people who were like, I would say for kind of the other, in my perspective, I feel like Morgan was of the three the most willing to talk some game with me. If I had to guess, of the three, like Morgan was probably the least, like Morgan was like like probably the most flexible with backup options of the three from what I saw can understand, but there wasn't much like flexibility in this game in general, but it's so hard to like and obviously I have some bias in that they gave me the heads up to use the shot in the dark and all that. So that's kind of my thoughts there.
Jacob.
I was just going to say, just like to piggyback of what Esteban said, like there's no correct rubric to measure like whose merits are more worthy of a win than another person. If someone was thinking simply from the strategic side of things, like we talked about Cam not really participating in all that much, and a lot of questions about like, okay, well, this is Nick's and Morgan's roles respectively, and the Sunset success, but like what was Cam's role in that? So maybe they will disqualify Cam for some of those reasons, but maybe they may just simply go on the personal angle, who they felt treated them with the most respect and courtesy on the way out. They may not played the best game, but like if I felt like I could connect with you on an emotional level, and I feel like the other two kind of disrespected me in a way, no matter how strong or stupendous their strategic game was, how dominant and like a Boston Rob type figure they were, like they still there's
I
levels of. Yes, sir.
the viewers need to know. I keep hearing whispers of the strategy and who maybe did or didn't have the strategy. From the viewer's standpoint, what was the hard strategy here? Like, what, where did
Honestly, like
it
it's hard
break
to say
down? Like,
anything
let's
other
talk
than
like
pecking
brass
order. Like,
tacks here of what was the hard-hitting strategy of pagonging question mark based off of immunity, and then what were the inner alliance? Like, that's what I'm like.
yeah,
What was happening?
I'm in a weird position where people can say, like, in the same way that the night she left, the same night I left, actually, Rachel, and the day before, Rachel told like three different stories of like who the person we could vote out instead of her was. I was one of them. Wesley was one of them. I think Esteban was one of them. Um, Maybe one of us had immunity. I didn't have immunity. I had immunity. No, I didn't. I don't know. Um, but like there were multiple people who could be voted out. Um, and so in that was not the truth. It was like because telling different people, like you tell people little lies in this game, trying to move your way forward. Um, and I'm in a weird position because, and I'm not like trying to get into how I left the game, but like I didn't leave the game when like the big threats were also available to be voted out. Like it wasn't like, we could vote Nick, we could vote Morgan, we could vote, let's vote Al, because Al, like, I don't know where my relationship is with any of them, like, because it didn't break down. Like Cam couldn't vote, but like they voted for of the two people who I would have voted for to leave. So
But so let's be the insight of like why, like what made Cam or Morgan a bigger threat in perception of the game? Like, why were they bigger threats when we all just did a bedonging train? And like,
was it a begonging train? It wasn't a begonging train first because Linda.
but like whose idea was it?
So
That's
as a,
kind of a question. I don't even know that still. Like whose idea was it?
so I that's something I need to ask them tomorrow.
Morgan
Or
implied
whenever.
afterwards when I had a
Wesley,
conversation.
please,
Yeah.
please, can I just say my thing? It's something I need to ask is if I had stayed, if I was still in the game, what were their plans with me? Like where was I? And obviously I had things I wanted to do as well. And I don't necessarily want to hear what other people think their plans were. Because I had, from what I know that some of them wanted to put some people here on the block that night. And that's not what they told you, because I know that's not what they told you, because that would be stupid. And so that might have been a lie. What they told someone else might have been like I said at the very beginning of what I was saying. We all tell people little lies. Nobody is getting the full truth from everyone. That's just a stupid. I need to blow my nose. I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm gonna
Like,
mute myself too.
I think Karen did well. Like, who made the strategic move when it was the Gong Train, like all the way to like Final 10? Like,
Right, if that's the strategy, who's holding the reins?
Well, I think part of it was, when are we going to vote out Wesley? I think that was
Been
part
there.
of,
Sorry, Wesley.
like, you can check my prod chat. First time I mean, I didn't end up technically voting Wesley, but when Rachel shot in the dark hit, first wrote down Wesley, and then I said, fuck, I don't want to go to Rocks. Need to make sure everybody's doing the same thing. Because unbeknownst to pretty much everybody, because I know apparently I was the one who seemed the least flexible, I was talking about going against the Sunsets as soon as the swap happened. But I had people in this game, and when you have people in the game, you have to talk with them a little bit, because if you don't talk with them a little bit, and your plans don't go the way you want them to, you're fucked. You're fucked immediately out of the game. And so I don't like, and of course, both my distortion games have ended up being Tribe Strong games, and that's boring and I hate it. But like, that's not the game I like to play. I tend to be close to I've spoken for too long in a row. And I need somebody to shut me up. So I'm gonna leave, but I have so many thoughts. I also ran a 10K, like I'm so tired. I don't exist at the moment. I'm gonna
I'm just
leave
trying
now.
to process. Like, okay, let's just go to the individual rounds. We're gonna ignore basically Jacob through Chris, or the Chris, not Chris, Crispy here, and go to the round where there's actually like kind of interesting stuff happening. I was left out of the Linden thing, which was like awkward as fuck. But back to the point, like whose like idea was it to cut Linden there per se over like Rachel? I can't see directions.
Trevor, do you have something to say about that one?
Yeah. I mean, like I've been saying, at 12, me and Nick kind of talked for an hour on who the order was gonna go. We said Chris O, then Rachel, then Lyndon, then Alex, then Crispy, then Wesley, then Al, then Cam, then Esteban.
Mhm.
That's what was.
I didn't even
and
make the boot. Okay, I was about to say, where was I in that? Was I?
You, Jacob, when Nick and I post swap, we
Top
were like,
12.
yeah, we were like, As soon as we merged, we gotta get Jacob out. You didn't make the list. You were out.
Jacob, I told you this. You
I-
are too nice. You can't get to the
I
end.
didn't even
You
do
win.
anything. It was merged. Like there was no.
You
I mean, I
win.
think
If
there
you get
was,
to the end, you win.
I think there
can't
was
get
a
to the
weird
end.
concern of if we let any rodeos touch, this was a universal concern, if we let any rodeos touch FTC after being 9-4 at the merge, fuck off. They're not. They're not like.
I feel bad voting Jacob because like the last message said like, oh, so nice to see your face, Esteban. Like, fuck, but I'm gonna vote you out.
Like there was definitely some rodeo concern. Like that could have just been deluding me, but I do think there was generally some concern about rodeo in general at the merge. Like not letting them go to the end.
Okay,
Not
so
letting us go to the end. There were 9-4. How
Yeah, we
I
were
was gonna say with
there
peace
was
and
no
love.
way we were getting to the
This
end,
was-
y'all. Why was there such fear behind Rodeo?
Tokenshin says hi. I have seen it happen in orgs where the majority can come with on itself and they don't.
It
I don't know.
it
Y'all
was
were
it was
so far up each other's butts. It
Survivor
didn't feel like it
Samoa
was
happened.
impossible.
I
That's
feel like
fair.
people forget Survivor Samoa
I
happened.
see, I see tribes of three, like the tribe that's like doing the worst off pre-merge, that they be able to do that. I think in a tribe with two format, it's more difficult. Samoa's an instance, but I feel like
Yeah,
the
because
new
it's
era
five to
of
three. The try was
What, do
supposed
I
to
not give
merge is
off
actually the
Russell
worst off.
vibes? Is that what you're saying to me, Jacob?
I
I'm not
am
Russell Hance.
you give me Laura Moret vibes. Those are the vibes.
Crazy Republican? I give off crazy Oh my god.
yeah,
Crazy
that
is
was
the least
not
insulting
happening.
person to say you are from Hoa is.
But anyway, yeah, I was
Dave
not.
Ball?
I was not. I personally, no offense to the Rodeos, I was not personally concerned that like we need to get the Rodeos out now because they're just gonna comp beast their way to the end.
It wasn't
Like
comp piecing, it was we don't want them at the end. Like,
well,
it's
people were
take them out
talking.
now as consensus so they don't get to FTC because they make FTC, they win.
People were talking about Chris O and Rachel like they invented competitions. So
If there was another coding challenge, we were all
Hey,
fucked.
if this was
This was
distortion,
Survivor coding.
Salesforce, I think we're screwed. Anyway, go ahead, Jack.
No, well, the reason why this came up, I feel, is because like from what I've gathered from the jury, right? Because a lot of questions like who started the mantra, who started pushing like the tribe strong mentality, and the only three names that I've heard to some capacity being, I don't know if it's accredited, blamed, I don't know which one more to like give here for pushing that, or Alex, who, I mean, how did it go out for him? And Morgan and Nick. So I'm like, so when I'm thinking like strategically, I'm thinking, well, if that is true, and Morgan and Nick were big proponents of making sure that Rodeo needs to be eradicated immediately, then I need to like think of, well, what connections or relationships did Morgan and Nick each have to like navigate that and to comfortably say, well, if we do that, then how do we navigate within this nine? And another reason why I felt like Morgan was my favorite going into this is because I hear, Morgan and Al had a final two. Obviously, Trevor's mentioning this final three that they had with Morgan and Nick. Obviously, Morgan, Nick, and Cam, that was probably a thing. 5 different person alliances, one with Trevor, one with Al, having good relationships with Wesley and Esteban each, to where like some unanimous votes occurred primarily because Morgan was letting people who were supposed to be let out in the know and be like, they told me not to tell you, but I told you, but I'm the one to let you know because I want you in this game, and me communicating with you was important. So like that's kind of where
Morgan
I'm
was
thinking.
also the only person who told me that no one had any interest in voting any way other than me. And that was nice because I had hope and then I was gone. But it was better to know that there was no hope than to just be shocked when all the votes came back
Yeah, I
to
think
me.
Morgan is very good at like, I would say for the Sunset people, Morgan was pretty good at like being nice to you on your way out generally.
I want to say two things. One, I agree with Lyndon that I think the turning point was the swap try went to rocks and then Morgan and Nick got to talk at Wheel or No Wheel because they were in the Heroes Challenge. I think that's kind of when that mantra started. That is just my opinion. The second thing is I want to hear how Morgan talks because from my perspective, and obviously I'm biased toward me, but Nick and I made a plan, and Nick was Morgan's number, and Morgan decided to have ideas. But Crispy, go what?
I gotta say, I as one of the two Rodeo representatives, if I hear Rodeo didn't want to flip one more time, I'm going to lose it because like
I have not heard that once tonight.
sorry. I'm referring to Lyndon's message.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, you are totally fine. No one from OG Rodeo would flip, so we hit rocks.
Oh,
It strategically, it would not have made sense for anyone on OG Rodeo to flip at that point in time because we said if anyone from OG Rodeo goes out here, then we were gonna get pagonged, and then a Rodeo went out, we got pagonged. So like if I flipped, even though Chriso lied to me at the summit, whatever, like if I flipped and took out someone from my own tribe, I wasn't earning any favor with OG Sunset. I burned everyone else on OG Rodeo. So
How are you not earning favor? You're like saving them.
how am I
No,
how would
Wes,
that be
in the
saving
same
them?
way that no favor was earned by Chris O and Rachel by choosing to send their tribe to tribal. The only smart way to, I'm not calling them stupid. I'm just saying in that one scenario at the summit, the only correct way to do that is to write the other tribe's name down because by doing that, you send both tribes to tribal. That's the only correct way to do that. The mistake from the beginning, and I'm not saying that like things were planned from the beginning because as I said, I know it's not shown in any of my distortion games, but I hate Tribe Strong. It's gross. Ugh, gross. I don't know why I did the sound effect. It just happened. But I think that was a turning point, not necessarily in Sunset Strong, but in the idea that there could be some sort of like manipulation into thinking that future relationships could be built or strengthened through things that happened pre-merge that weren't actually going to build or strengthen relationships. And then in the second one-on-one with Morgan and Nick, I think that moved a little bit further into Sunset Strong.
So I do agree with you, Al, that it seemed like that summit was the turning point in how like the rest of the game played out. But what is still confusing to me is that the actions that Chriso and Rachel did at the summit benefited OG Sunset. They lied to OG Rodeo. So if anyone had like any reason to be upset or like whatever, were the people from OG Rodeo. So it just kind of seemed like because they did something that benefited this tribe that was so set on being tribe strong. I don't know. It's just confusing to me that.
Oh no, we weren't upset at like Rachel and Chris. It was just the thought that, oh, Rachel and Chris think that this is gonna win them favor in the future if we meet up again. Interesting.
Yeah, okay. Maybe upset was the wrong word that I'm trying to
like I'm not it's not like obviously it was a positive for us because we didn't have to go to tribal. It was just like I guess it showed like never show your enemy a weakness, and it might have shown. I don't know if again words are not, brain bad. Like I'm so sorry. This is not a helpful.
I think I understand what you're trying to say.
Do you? Because I don't. So
I think so.
if
I
you
think
figured
so.
it out, I'm really happy because
Yeah.
I have no idea.
I think I get it, but I think still like I think I'm still kind
I
of
think
like
also some line they made about them being like a tight. No, they said like they didn't say this. They said like alliances plural was the whole thing. The kind of the whole
yeah,
thing.
yeah, that's true. I just don't
I'm
think
not saying you should have alliances. I'm saying like having layers of alliances around three seems a bit off.
yeah. It's just too bad that it seemed to negatively impact Jacob and I when I feel like we were trying to establish relationships outside of them too. But anyway, go ahead, Jacob.
And I was like admittedly scared because I'm like, well, I could flip on Chris because like it, but for me, it was like either it's a lie, what's being said, and I don't like the fact that neither Nick nor Alex were on my tribe to like corroborate if this story was true, then in which case I'm voting him off of a lie that they convinced me of. But if it is true, and Chris and Rachel did extend this, we keep memeing the term olive branch here, but like that's the best word I can use. Like, I mean, like making this gesture, this risky play where like they could, yes, just be immune, but also for Sunset do that favor. And Chris wasn't safe. And this did Chris no favors at all. I'm thinking, well, if I vote off Chris here, I don't think this is no different than Chris and Rachel opting to go for that coin flip. So for me, I'm like, and especially since Morgan, Cam, both mentioned Tribe Strong before I even uttered the words, like even suggested the idea that was a fear in my head. That was like, why are you making it a point to say that's not what's happening? Like, I just feel like it was suspicious. So, like, I didn't want to operate under not having all parties there to tell me, hey, did this thing happen? And plus, Chris was passionate. No, they're lying, and which, like, obviously is on Chris, but I also had to follow two with the guys. Like I kind of wanted to believe him, but I don't know. Obviously, the game played out in a very unfortunate manner, and whether we accredit it to one specific moment or not, ultimately the mantra was developed and something that both Morgan and Nick, to some degree, pushed that got them there to final three. I can't take that away from them.
Crispy, were you talking about us targeting like Chris O and Rachel specifically? Like, was that the question? Because I meant just Rodeo as a whole. It had nothing to do with Chris O and Rachel like still being there at the merge. Was that part of the confusion?
Yeah, a
Because
little
you
bit.
said like you and Jacob got shafted,
Yeah.
and it was more like Rodeo as a whole and not just like Chris O and Rachel.
Yeah, and to kind of illustrate my reasoning behind thinking that, going back to Morgan, was that like they specifically said that there was zero chance for the two of us, Morgan and I, to work together while Chris O was still in the game. So because of the actions from the summit, like specifically cited the summit as the reason why it was impossible to work with Chris O, and because I defended Chris O needed to go before Morgan and I had a chance to be able to work together. So
Interesting.
I feel
Chris
like
O
that's
gets
like
voted
if
out.
in that case, that's just Morgan justifying something that's gonna happen anyways. It would
Right.
feels like.
Yeah, whatever makes sense in their head, I guess, whatever helps them sleep at night. But like, it's still
I
like
didn't want to work with Chris O because I played with Chris O last season.
fair. That's
And I knew
totally
better
fair.
than to do it again.
Yeah, that's
Especially
totally
since
fair.
we were once again not starting on the same tribe.
Right.
And I knew how that was going to go for me. That's me personally. I didn't know about the Morgan thing.
Yeah, and I mean,
With
I wasn't gonna like broadcast that to
oh
people
no, I
because
don't
like,
mean like Crispy. How could you not tell me this? I just
yeah,
meant like
for sure. And
now
then
you're
Chris
saying
O gets voted out, and I slide right into Morgan's DMs and be like, "Hey, bestie, Chris O ain't here anymore. So how about you work with Chris P now? Like, huh? Let's talk about that." And then Morgan was like, "Oh my God, yeah, that's like so crazy. Like, yeah, that's insane that Chris O isn't here anymore." I'm like, so back to that conversation. Like, I'm open. It's literally just Rachel and I now, and I know that I won't be able to beat Rachel at the end anyway. So like, throw me a bone here. Ghosted. So yeah. So that's part of like the confusion. Does that make sense? Like that's part of the
Yeah.
confusion I'm
I
trying
feel
to
like I feel like Morgan was probably the
That-
one trying to contain the bottom more, but like I feel like he was the most fake. Like Kim was just not talking game with by bottom here by context I mean bottom I mean, all of Rodeo and bottom of Sunset. Cam was just mostly fake, well, mostly like not talking game. And like if you were to ask him if I were to ask him what's going on, he would always just say, I don't know. Yes, he does.
I
And
want to
like
read back on that
So-
though. It's better to say nothing than to say something flowery that is not true. That's how I felt too.
but like
to
so but that was
appreciate
basically
more
Cam saying
of telling me like,
I
okay, I
gave
don't know. Sorry, may I finish?
Yeah.
Like I feel better with you saying like, I'm so sorry, I don't know, or I don't want to do, or saying those words than saying like, yeah, you're good, and then you will be going home right away. So it's like
like Cam was
it's more.
saying he doesn't know when he knew what's going on exactly. So it's still a lie.
Oh, I feel like he knew it, but again, just like what I said, do you
Yeah.
still need to talk when everybody is already talking? No, you don't need to do that anymore. Because like let them do the dirty work and just do, be clean at the end of the game, and just stay to your side when things happen like that. But anyways, I just would like to piggyback to Crispy too with Morgan on that rock draw, because I was the one who've been, had a votes in there. One thing I feel like Morgan is really wanted to go strong Sunset there, because I caught them in a situation where he lied to me. He told Chris about something that he wanted me to be voted out after or whatsoever. That's a conversation. And I told Morgan, like, Morgan, Chris told me this way and whatsoever, but with all those narrative, and he said, like, see, this is the reason why Chris needs to be voted out right away. But I feel like there's a personal patch of it wherein he wanted to close all, patches, all, that the wrong moves that might happen to him with that conversation with Chris. That's why he made it to the point where he always make Cam, Lyndon, and I in the group that we have saying like, no, we need to do this, we need to headstrong do this thing for all of us. But then there is still a personal touch onto that one. And I feel like they just really not a fan of Chris O. I don't know why he made a lot of ill talk about Chris O on our personal conversation, which I feel like it's not really so true to most of the time too. Because like Chris and I had a very good conversation, even though we voted each other's out. So like it doesn't really fit, the narrative what Morgan is telling me about Chris. Oh, but unfortunately, just like what Crispy said, we did the thing that is beneficial to our end of tribe at that time, because it's a 4-4. So it's like no, when no one wanted to flip, because no one want or feels to flip, because it's an even number, and one to go will always gonna be go, pagonging right away on that thing that's what happened. So I feel like that's how it happened, or it started with that tribe strong, probably.
I've learned a lot about Chris O. Let's talk about Nick now. Who wants to start? I
Yeah,
feel
it's
like
crazy.
there should be a plenty to unload, right?
Wait, Chris O isn't in the final three? Shit.
Then this wouldn't even be a discussion. A rodeo's at the
God
end, guys.
damn it. I had to
Chris
I
O
might-
change all my
winner.
notes.
I might
I would
unironically
interject
vote for
that
Chris
like
O over the
several
option presented
times
here.
also. That wasn't just after the last one, okay? Yeah.
I mean,
So,
but
Nick.
my option here is for I would say Nick was the very much the aggressive, I kind of want to say attack dog figurehead almost of the Sunset Strong group. Maybe not attack dog, like the figurehead of the idea, kind of the big threat that's like the aggressive big threat. But like, and usually the thing of being the big name that you have a hard time getting to the end of the idea of being a threat, but they are there. But like, I don't know what I'm saying anymore.
I have a question for everybody because I keep hearing this guy specifically, and I don't know if it was just me that experienced this, But did anyone else experience during the round that they got voted off that Nick wasn't saying anything to them?
Oh, Nick lied to me, but whatever.
Like just nothing, radio silence, like not responding at all, taking hours to respond. I keep hearing that being a recurring thing that someone did to them on their way out, and the only person I knew said like verbatim they did this to them was Nick. So I was
No,
just curious if like that was a recurring thing for people.
no, Esteban did that to me, actually, not Nick, but I'm kidding.
Esteban's so valid for that.
I'm so bitter toward Esteban, like, oh my
I
god.
totally didn't like. Also, you totally didn't like say I did try to talk to you when there were several messages saying we should call and you ignored them. Whatever.
So this is what happened when Rachel is the one to go home. Nick, Trevor, and I don't know. They already have planned about voting Rachel, but then Nick has been a very, big proponent about that, I guess. But then, I mean, when we wanted to flip, right, Trevor, we wanted to flip the vote, not, I mean, in favor of Rachel. And Rachel talked to me, and then I talked to Trevor, and then I said, like, well, I need to wait for Nick if he really willing to do that. Because Rachel said that it is Nick's a little bit, bigger plan. I mean, it's Rachel and Nick's plan. And then I was waiting for Nick until the time for the vote, and then there's no conversation happen because Nick ghosted me. And I told Trevor, what the heck? This is not gonna happen because Trevor ghosted me on that one. I don't know. Probably Trevor can say something about that because I've been talking to Trevor like, I thought we have this plan and I thought this is Nick's plan, and then he ghosted us.
Yeah, so I basically argued with Nick for like 24 hours on if we should flip and take out, it would have been Wesley or to vote out Rachel, because I didn't know where Wesley or Al's head were at, so I was like, if those could be the next two to go, like you two
We
and
talked for like
Rachel.
an hour.
I know, but honestly, I feel like I felt like you and I were okay,
I was
but
waiting for you to give some sort, because we talked about Rachel, and I was waiting
yes.
for you to give some sort of something.
Honestly, I'll by the time I talked to you, like I was like, oh, this plan is not happening. So like Rachel's gone. Like even if Alan and I like say like, yeah, we'll try to do something, like we would have to go to rocks. I'm like, I'm not doing that. So like by the time I talked to you, I was like, let's just confirm Rachel and just punt. It's fine. Um, but when Wesley called me and said, I want a final three with Yumi and Esteban, I was like, well, Wesley's probably not gonna go for me or Esteban at live night, so that's good. So I was like, I mean, if it's Rachel here, it's fine. And then Wesley nominated Esteban, and I'm like,
I was
this is
just like, I think I got new info between that call and this call about the Rachel Sabbath, about the Rachel saying Esteban will win in the end, and like me kind of believing it is what got in my head. I know I
oh, so
thought
that's
that,
when Nick told you. Okay,
yeah, that I mean, it's still pretty. I mean, multiple people told me that basically,
gotcha. Yeah, I so
which
yeah,
kind of made sense in my head because like in the game, it felt like this could absolutely be a jury that's just going to vote for the anti-winner almost.
What were you saying, Trevor?
oh, so to answer your question, Esteban, honestly, like I was like so frustrated with the round. I was like, oh shit, I had to text Esteban that this is not happening. But I was like, yeah, Esteban, fuck it. Like, it's not happening. Like, Rachel's going home. There's nothing we can do, unfortunately. But yeah, unfortunate, but it is what it is.
Nick, anyone else?
So, I mean, like I've been saying, for me, I feel like Nick has had control of the vote since the beginning of the game. And obviously I'm not slighted by Nick as everyone else is. So Nick is where my vote is almost certainly going, just based on that. But yeah,
Yeah.
definitely understand the gripes against Nick. I just don't know unless it's like a personal thing or like a social thing. I just don't know, like, to me how Morgan, it just pure strategy, don't take into account of anything else, how Morgan had more control of the game than Nick. That's how I perceived the game, is that Morgan was just Nick's number. And then Cam was Morgan's number. So
Here's okay, so here's kind of I don't have to agree with this thing, but like, what's if like I just kind of want to name it like what's everyone leaning into tonight if they feel a share. Like I'm kind of leaning towards Morgan mostly on a social level, and I feel like Morgan tried the most to play with me at all, so that's kind of where I'm going.
I have no idea how I'm voting because I won't know until I talk to them. Um, I have a feeling I'm not voting for Cam. Uh, if Morgan and Nick piss me off enough, I'll be voting for Cam. But
I love how you said it wasn't even if Cam convinces me enough. It's like it's either two sabotage so bad.
I mean, crazier things have happened. So, like, they're both in the final three. I don't know how it happened, but it did. So,
Blame me.
Oh, I mentioned earlier that my favorite kind of going into this right now is Morgan. I didn't even make Nick's boot list. Like that's how doomed I was from the start before we even touched merge. Jacob's like, oh, the second Jacob's on this tribe, bro.
Yeah, again,
What
Jacob, I
what,
do
what
apologize
the
for
fuck did
that.
I do? I even tried.
I
Whatever.
think it was the I think it was just the most threatening socially rodeo.
To
Like
me, Jacob, I've seen you run
This is
games
bullshit.
to me. And no, honestly, that's one. But the main thing is, I'm like,
yeah, that's called
Jacob,
hosting.
Jacob could flip me. Jacob's gonna flip me,
That
and
was a funny joke,
I
Mama.
can't let Jacob do that to me because I can't let him do that. So I was like, I love Jacob too much. I can't.
This is whatever. So yeah, so I was kind of so I am very operating under very limited information. And from what my limited interactions with them is this. This is what I have. Nick did not say much. The only thing I left going into the jury, like feeling really touched by, is because we have a terrible relationship in these games. We never work together. I think until Bodo, we just this historical um rivalry. Like one of us will snipe the other. It's usually me. Before the other gets the chance to. Karen knows that very well because we gave him first boot once. But he said that no matter what the game plays out, it's not going to affect our friendship, and ultimately it won't. Honestly, I still love Nick as a person. I just don't. Our play styles don't mesh well together, and Cam kept insisting he was this fluid player, and he didn't want to pagonging, and he was the person that during the whole Chris O debacle, let's swap, kept like being persistent about not wanting to just do Sunset Strong. But I feel like and would make deals and alliances. And I that only alliance I was in that didn't involve Rodeo members was me, him, and Lyndon at Swap. And he kept saying how us voting together is great to hide our tracks. We can go to the merge, we can get some numbers. You know, you talk about your people, I get some intel from my people, but then just first opportunity I get to snipe me, he takes it. And I'm just like, I don't feel comfortable rewarding that, particularly at the end. If I was this doomed from the start, he could have told me, and he had many more opportunities than anyone from Sunset to tell me just straight up, yeah, you're doomed, bro. But he didn't, and even up until moments before Tribal, kept insisting it was Chris O, and it wasn't. And at least with Morgan, with the limited stuff that he gave me, at least felt like he understood my position. And I even mentioned this. I even thanked him. I was like, look, I'm not Mother Teresa or anything, but like, you're my friend. And like, I don't want to ignore you. I don't want to not talk to you. Like, just, it's fun talking to you.
Teresa
And
was
I at
actually a
least,
bad person, but it's fine.
but yeah, point being, like, that's where I'm leaning right now. And I think the main argument for each is if we believe N Nick may have strategically been the most overt and been the most out in front. We have Morgan, who, at least in my opinion, I think was the most safe, was the most secure within Sunset. And I see a lot of people who had very close relationships and very close, tight-knit deals with Morgan make the end game. And then Cam, I think, is kind of the lesser of three evils, who didn't really seem to piss all that many people off, didn't alienate that many people. And I think at least, whether genuine or not, put up this front that he was willing to work with people and exercise other options. I'm leaning Morgan, but yeah, that's my spiel.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I think I have a decent metaphor that might like people will argue with me on. I feel like of the theoretical Sunset Army, Nick is the what's trying to think of that name? The MacArthur, the public figure, the out there face. I would say Morgan was like the sergeant, the general who's like managing the individual, like the troop leader who's managing the troops. And Cam was a jovial soldier. It's like kind of the best way I can put it without like not sounding too crazy.
Oh, I need to say something too. Like, if we were talking about strategic game and we give credit to Nick and to Morgan, I'm just kind of a little bit discredit with how Karen said, like, well, it is already pagonging. I mean, we already gave, the game already gave the platter to us, the people who are playing on those tribes. So I feel like the strategic part of the game on this series is kind of a little bit not, I mean, not not being, being big, but I feel like it's just been already there. And I feel like that's how we felt when it comes to the other tribe on this game. But then if we are looking to something that is totally a different part of, kind of a game, I feel like I will credit it to Cam. And no one of all of us here even already mentioned that he already won the game, and he might probably have this way of playing the game before, and then hopefully he will surprise us with what is really on his mind on the game that he played, and might hopefully blow us, blow our mind, not blow us, but blow our mind on the on the game part. Trevor, you need to talk to Wesley about so, but anyways, I just feel like I can be torn between Morgan and Nick in a game that is really upfront and have been very rich when it comes to numbers, when it comes to challenges and strategies. But if I will go deviate to something that is new and unique, and to try to think of a different way of calling people a name as a winner, I feel like I'm gonna give more to Cam. Because, like, again, it's really hard to balance things, not to, annoyed and piss people at the end of the game and be on that, at the finale of the game. It's only a few people who had made that, and that's why the reason why Morgan and Nick was afraid that Trevor will be there or that I will be there, because they already knew that they had made mistakes on their game, and it's not perfect. Like, challenge wise, strategic wise, they're perfect, but on the social part of it, they missed a lot of it.
But by that logic, do we want to give somebody the win who did 2/3 of the slogan of the game, or the person who did 1/3 of the slogan of the game? Like outwit, outplay, outlast? I guess no. Sure. Like,
They all outlasted us, like all of them.
yeah, but like social, strategic
Well, I guess physical,
challenges.
I don't like.
Whatever
Do we really care about
challenges.
challenges? Well, I personally don't care about challenges for me as a juror, like as petty as it sounds like. Like, I view challenges as a tool to get you to the end, not something you should be judged at the end for. Like, it's
But I feel like sometimes doing nothing is doing something, and doing nothing is doing everything. Because, like, again, we don't know what is behind Cam's game, because we just saw the game of Morgan and Nick more so. But then, just like me, I mean, I'm probably not talking much to Westy and Al on the game, but then I talk to people, and just like what you say, that people would love to, sorry, not to, put my, drag my boost myself here, but that's why people wanted to vote me more than them, because I did something personally on the game that is not visible to the eye of all. Just want to say, I mean, maybe hopefully Cam is doing that too.
I kind of want to piggyback off what Esteban kind of said here. Like, I kind of think of like Big Brother, like, because I host many a series, and like on Hypnotic, I keep having this argument, like this like debate on like what's worse, like actively bad gameplay are very passive gameplay. Like you think of like Devin and like Frenchie and like all like these early boots on the actual show of
To
Big Brother
me,
that actively sorry.
Mhm.
No, continue what were you gonna say, and then I'll proceed.
Okay, yeah, I interrupted you, but I think you finished your statement mostly.
Yeah, like it's kind of like because I was going to give examples and like how like it obviously ties
I
into
would
the
say to
finals here.
me, it's deliberacy. If you, what I value the jury is, what you did a plan. If you plan to play passive and you have a specific way of, here's why I did what passively, why I did, here's how I like work myself up the jury to maximize my win odds and all that stuff, and you can show me there was a clear plan and awareness of how you were seen, then yes, a UTR grade is great. But if you kind of just weren't around or had no plan per se, then like I don't really want to reward you. Is kind of my thought here. Like I want to know what part of your game was deliberate and what did you fall backwards into.
Jacob, can you continue what you were saying?
Okay. So yeah, just like you see like Devin and like Frenchie like be like these actively poor players that did things to garner the mistrust of people, garner the ire of people. And you see many people make the final two, that just alienated and pissed off tons of people on the jury. They burned a lot of people. A lot of people felt like their relationship was special and they were their number one, but they weren't. They were just another option. They're another just player on their roster. But then you see some people kind of play like these under the radar games that may go home early because they don't have the strongest connections on the board and there's no one really fighting hard for them. But these are people that could sneak their way at the end because they didn't do anything actively aversive to many people. Like I think that there was like this whole lack of a better word, tangent about how Morgan and Nick both commit a lot of the same crimes regarding jury management and how they treated people and how they mismanaged some of these relationships, whether it be with the Rodeo side of things or even within the nine, that there's people that even despite the fact that they made it super far and were involved a lot directly in the strategy and what was going on during the merge, still didn't really hear all that much from either one of them. But no one's really like the big knock of Cam was like the question of Cam is what did he do? And the question I'm seeing being posed primarily to Morgan and Nick is why they did what they did. Like what was all of it necessary? So like Cam's kind of coming into FTC fighting a different battle than those other two are. Because like there's like a good chance Cam may just take it because Morgan and Nick together may have just soured a majority of the jury against rewarding how they conducted themselves, like rewarding the villain at the end of the day,
Yeah.
or it could be end up being a battle if we don't see enough evidence of Cam directly influencing the game himself and driving the game in a way to where it benefited him primarily.
I'm gonna make a call right now. What the jury vote count? Everyone is getting at least 2 votes of the final three. Like this is that weird ass of like there's no consensus here kind of jury vote. Like everyone kind of hates them all for like different reasons and a different combination of two they're mad the most. Or like more neutral about it. Like I think I could see it going like I don't remember what the valid counts are, like fourth, like
Crispy,
some weird splits. Like
had you already
possibly a
said,
plurality win even. Who even knows?
Crispy, had you said where you were leaning? If you were leaning a certain way?
Um, I'm not terribly leaning one way or another. I do think it's gonna come down to my question. Like if I had to like gun to my head had to vote somebody right this very moment, I would probably vote for Cam just because he was simply was the nicest to me. But I think it's ultimately going to come down to my question. Um, I'm pretty open. I would love to not vote for Morgan, just because of I put a lot of stock in how I'm treated in the game. Clearly, but I mean they could blow me away with their answer to my question. So there's that.
Raise your hand if there's room for your vote to change. Yeah.
Oh, come on, dude. Oh, come on, Trevor. Just kidding.
Okay. Okay. Raise your hand if you had fun. Oh my God, someone raised their hand.
Tonight?
Right. Just in general. Tonight, the game. Raise your hand if you're excited for FTC. Does everyone know what questions they're gonna ask?
I don't
Let's
even-
I'm going to ask them to. I'm going to say I'm giving you as much strategic info as I got this entire game. So all three of you close your eyes. Now, who do you think? Which jury do you think is going which way?
period. Classic.
I'm more excited for the post game stuff, like the tea
I'm
and
not
awards and
excited
stuff.
for like. We are already like geared towards what like the dumb what like the arguments of what caused the gonging stuff here that could get really a lot more heated at like post game because like everyone's gonna argue like try to blame specific people or something.
Well, we'll save that for post game.
But I'm saying
Do
like
we
post
have-
game is not gonna be
sorry.
fun.
Do we have already like the list or the order of how we will question?
I think it's by vote out.
Yeah, so I'm gonna end this here. I'm gonna say thank you, Karen. You've been amazing. Thank you, jurors who showed up. You guys are thebomb.com.